Bushcraft 412. I want to do a quick comparison video. It's probably not going to be quick. I'm a liar. I always say quick, but it never ends up being quick. I want to do a comparison video on the Kabar 1212 and the Ontario SP1. Now these are both pretty much essentially the same design knives. They were, these are based on the original World War II Kabar design. One, of course, made by Kabar, the other made by Ontario. And these are very similar in a lot of ways, and I just kind of want to go over some of the differences and, talk real quick about them to help people out who are thinking about buying either one of these. Let's start off first with the basics. These are both 7-inch blades. The length difference between the two of these is maybe a centimeter at best. The Ontario is just a hair longer. They're a little over 11 inches overall. They're both made of a 1095 carbon steel. They both have craton handles. First difference, of course, comes with the serrated edge on this one, but you don't have to get the serrated edge. There is a 1211 model, which is normal standard blade. This one's a 1212, so let's forget about the serration, at least for this video. Finger guard on the Ontario is craton. It's not metal. And it is a slightly different shape. As you can see, it is not perfectly straight. It is kind of a little bit of a wave to it. The Kabar is a slightly bent, but it is a carbon steel handle. The pommel on the SP1 is overmolded with a slight finger guard at the end with a lanyard hole. No metal on the bottom whatsoever. The Kabar stays true to the original design and has a pinned-on carbon steel pommel, which is good for hammering and whatnot. So I think slight advantage goes to the Kabar with that. But however, slight advantage goes to the Ontario with the lanyard hole. So kind of a trade-off there. The back of the Ontario is sharpened. The back of the Kabar is not. It's a false edge back there. So you do have, of course, the major differences are the guards, the pommels, and that back. Like I said, we're forgetting about the serrations. Let's talk about price. The 1212 or 1211, whichever you're interested in and looking at, price-wise on them, you can get them online from like 50 to 60 bucks. The Ontario SP1, occasionally you'll see online for $40, like 45 shipped. So the SP1 is about $5 cheaper if you are on a real budget crunch. But as for price, very similar, about $5-10 bucks difference tops. Let's talk about production. Kabar has been being produced for 70 years. Kabar used to be Union Cutlery. They've been around since the 1900s. Good long production run with these knives. They've been doing it for 70 years, never screwed it up yet. Ontario is another knife company which in one way or another has been around for close to 100 years. They did not get into making Kabars until after World War II, and I believe they made them up until around 1980. I'm not sure if they did government contract only or government contract and civilian models. I'm not sure on that. There's not a lot on the Ontario Kabars on the internet, but I know they did make them after World War II, and I believe up till, I think the date I read was 1980. So Ontario hasn't been using the design as long. This one here is the SP1. It's supposed to be a Spec Plus Marine combat knife. So it is kind of meant to take on the design of the Kabar, but their own little kind of take on it. Both are produced in the USA. Both are manufactured in New York. The Kabar manufactured in Olean, which is south of Buffalo, near the Pennsylvania border. Ontario, which is made in Ellenville, New York, which is on the other side, which is more towards the Catskills, kind of closer, more towards New York City, but also very close to the Pennsylvania border. So two very nice, well-priced New York made knives. History, both have been made, since both have been in production for many years. I've been doing this for a long time. Steels are similar, are pretty much identical. Handles are very similar, so the differences needs are very minute. I believe neither of them has any major warranty except just manufacturer's defects. Let me look real quick at the box. I don't see anything on the Kabar box about any warranties or anything like that. The Kabar came with a leather sheath. Of course, there is an upgrade you can buy. You can get the Kydex sheath for the Kabar, which that's a big bonus. But the leather as it stands, very plain Jane. The Ontario, on the other hand, is a nylon Cordura sheath with a leather belt loop, and it has 2 restraining straps for the knife, one for the handle, one for the finger guard. Ooh, let's get this on frame here. So you have 2 retention methods. And of course you have a D-loop at the end with some rope to tie down to your leg. As far as I know of, there are no aftermarket Kydex sheaths for the Ontario. If I'm wrong, send me a comment or a personal message, guys, so I can kind of correct. But I think the sheath capabilities go to the Kabar, because you do have that ability to upgrade to the Kydex, which I will be doing shortly. I just got the Kabar today, so hopefully pretty soon. So, which one wins this? Well, you got 2 knives, which are pretty much the same knife, with only some very minute details between them, different. Length and feel and everything like that's very similar. The Kabar is a little more blade heavy, whereas the Ontario feels a little more balanced. But I think, being these are similar prices, if I could only have one of these, I think I'm going with the Kabar. I feel the Kabar has a little better feel in the hand. It's a little more, kind of a sturdy feel to it. The Ontario feels a little bit lighter, which isn't a bad thing, but it just doesn't feel as good in the hand. And I think how a blade feels in the hand is one of the most important things. I like the feel of the Kabar. It feels much sturdier and just feels beefier and a little heavier. I like the ability of having the metal pommel. But although I do, the Ontario's, they're such similar, but I do like the sheath and the lanyard hole on the Ontario. But, just the feel of the Kabar wins it. It feels just a little bit heavier, a little bit beefier. I like having the metal finger guard and the metal pommel. I think as for quality, I think that will make it last a hair longer. But who knows? I mean, Kydex hasn't been around for 70 years, but we'll find out in 70 years, I guess. I'll have to let you guys know in 70 years how they're holding up. So in the head-to-head, I put the Kabar as the winner, but that Ontario, it's not losing by much. That is a very cool, very nice little knife, and some of the features on it are definitely worth owning. I kind of feel like instead of having 2 Kabars, I'm perfectly happy having the Ontario and the Kabar. I think it really kind of completes the collection. And the 2 of them, even though they're very similar, the slight little differences do make them interesting enough to own. Hope you enjoyed. This was the Kabar 1212 versus the Ontario SP1.